to the Spotlight on Marketing, brought to us by Armstrong Lloyd, headhunters in the B2B marketing space. I'm your host, Karen Lloyd, and today I have double fun. I am joined by two guests. Nick Jones, the founder of Glendower Advisory currently, but he was also the former managing director for EMEA and APAC for the Lucidworks business, and also Max Childs, who's currently working as a fractional CMO, but previously, he also worked alongside Nick as a dream team together as the EMEA marketing lead. So I'm really excited to talk to Max and Nick because their story is real. This isn't a theory. This isn't a framework. This is an actual journey that happened with a commercial outcome that really does speak for itself. So today we're going to learn how they overcame a sales and marketing misalignment, how they got their leadership team on board, and what happened to the pipeline when they did. So if you're a marketing leader who's ever felt like they're pushing water up a hill, or a sales leader who's really frustrated that things just aren't working the way they want to, or you're a senior leader who just suspects things aren't all pulling in the same direction, this one is for you. Welcome both.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Great stuff. So Nick, you came to the business not from the marketing side, you're really from the sales and delivery side. What was your honest view of marketing in your early career and any shifts that you had with that?
I think my first experience with marketing was when I took on the managing director role at a small consultancy called Cirrus 10. So we did e-commerce search consultancy. I was the first man on the ground in EMEA, so I had to set everything up from scratch. And to be fair, it was my first proper sales marketing kind of job. And what I realized quickly is that being, the first presence in a territory, people don't know your name and don't know what you can do. Even if you've got a fantastic, the parent company's got a fantastic list of logos, they kind of mean nothing in that territory. So I found myself quickly doing a dual sales and marketing role to kind of get the business going and up and running. The only time in my life that I've been called a marketing genius is when I sent out letters to potential prospects with a lottery ticket in it, and weirdly somebody won. So we didn't get that deal, but we did get another deal off the back of all the publicity. So, that felt to me like a win, but also an interesting attribution kind of question.
Yeah, very funny, very good. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So even though you were in sales, they called you a marketing genius because you gave them something.
It's never happened again.
Well, maybe by the end of this call. But one of the things I was interested in is you just mentioned, you said it came apparent that the people in the region didn't know the logos from somewhere else. What was that aha moment in that when you realised they just weren't resonating with the logos, or was it just something you had as a gut feeling?
It was in one sales meeting and they said, yeah, this is all right, but what about somebody here?
Oh, who said that though? Who said?
That was one of the prospects that I was working with. Now the interesting thing is that, fast forward to Lucidworks, I had a conversation with the then CEO. What about marketing in Europe? And he said, to paraphrase, that, we've got all these great logos. And I went, oh dear.
You thought, I've been here before in the previous job.
I recognise this story.
So what did you say? Yeah.
What did I say? I I was a little bit shocked at that point, a little bit shell shocked, and I went back and had a chat with Max, and we came up with a strategy after that.
So this is when you both met and you realised that, so the CEO was saying, it's okay, we don't really need to do any marketing in EMEA because you've got all these, brands, regardless of where they are, but look, they're great logos. The customers are going to resonate. And you're like, I've been here before. The customer, before, has said, look, I want customers that are like me in my region, and if I don't have that, then I'm not going to kind of buy into your brand. And so you knew this was the problem. And at this point, what was the pipeline looking for the business in EMEA at this point when you were having these conversations?
About as small as you can get before you hit zero.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So brilliant. So you knew you had to change, and you saw the pipeline. So that's when you went to Max, and you'd only just started working with Max at the time, hadn't you, as a fractional lead?
Yeah. This is my first spot with Max, and I'd have to say that the sales team from the SDR onward were also a little bit like they'd had enough, right? To be honest.
Okay.
So it was like, there's the imperative to get the number, but there's also the imperative just to change the way we work together. So.
Yeah. Okay. So like the sales team were a bit despondent. You didn't have any pipeline. You were being told to just do what you've already done and get on with the logos, and that's it. And that's when you were like, actually, we have got a fractional marketing lead. Let me speak to this person. Hope they can help us. And that's stage left,
enter
Max. Yes.
Yes. Not the first time that I've encountered the companies coming into Europe with a whole bank of logos and then wondering why they don't seem to resonate. I think right the way through the marketing career, working with US companies, it's been the same. And you can, especially if you do quite a lot of events that have over the years, you can see it in the faces of prospects. They look at the logos and they're just meaningless because maybe a mum and pop sort of shop somewhere in Kansas means absolutely nothing to the likes of a big German retailer or a UK bank. So the need to have logos and customers that resonate with your local audience is absolutely paramount. And with Lucidworks, I think the challenge was that the contract form where on the master contract we had a clause in there about marketing, and we were asking for different kinds of marketing support, so use of logo to do some kind of a case study or maybe have someone talk on stage. The original form of the language was very legalistic, ultra precise, ultra detailed, and left no room for flexibility. And it concerned me looking at it, let alone what it would do to a prospect. So we'd already had a conversation about changing this back in the very early days when I started working with Lucidworks, but it's a very kind of siloed organisation at that point. And when Nick came in and became the VP International, then the organisation was restructured slightly. So we had the opportunity to change it. And just by relaxing the language in the contract to be a little bit more flexible, then we went from, I think, in the first 3-4 years working with Lucidworks, we'd had 0 net new customer case studies in Europe. We went from 0 to 3 over the space of 18 months. And it was simply down to being a little bit more flexible with the language.
The flexibility of the language definitely did help, but it's also the recognizing that there's a value to the organization of having customer references as well, and to feed that into the sales team. So what I think we had before was really, really tight language around marketing and no internal value associated with that language. So the first phrase that would get negotiated out would be that marketing language phrase. So we put internal value on that, and made that a strong negotiating point, which really helped with our conversations with procurement.
This really does show the full cycle as well, doesn't it? Because basically you've got Nick, Max, who's looking at from a marketing perspective and going, look, we need new logos. What's the barrier? Well, actually, the wording in the contract at a point when you're signing a customer, how do I know I'm going to want to do a case study with them? Because you're not putting yourself in the shoes of the customer at that point. And so I suppose your sales team, all they want to do is get it over the line, and they're not worrying about the marketing. So it was a seesaw of conflict from the customer and the sales team, and you spotted that. And I reckon that's something that a lot of companies probably have, and they don't even realise is an objection that's coming through. But ultimately you do want the logos, because that is, again, so it's a cycle of sales, but it's that broader piece that was basically disconnected there. So you resolved this, and then what was the outcome, or what was the next step after this? Because this is one aspect, what's the next step after this that helped you layer up what you were doing?
The next thing was recognizing that the business landscape in EMEA is different to the landscape in the United States. So Lucidworks is a company that does on-site e-commerce search and some behind the firewall knowledge discovery search as well. But we focus on e-commerce, which was the big focus for Lucidworks at the time. There are a lot of really big brands in the United States that support the kind of investment that you need for a really sort of strong search solution, and particularly in B2B commerce, right? You know, there's a company that sells beads called Fire Mountain Gem beads, and they make close to $100 million a year. You don't get that kind of business in Europe because we're kind of fragmented a bit geographically. There are a few that kind of span the entirety of Europe and some really big names, but there's not very many of them. So we realized we're kind of fishing in the wrong pool. But where Europe is strong is in the manufacturing and the B2B side of things. So our pivot was to go from B2C commerce search to B2B. And Max, you probably want to talk about how we realized that was a really good bet.
Yeah, I mean, that was, it was challenging. So when I first started working with Lucidworks, so we had this retail commerce focus, which was, fairly straightforward. Been working in retail technology for a long time. So we already had a bit of a database. We already knew who we were going after. We were doing the right kind of things. But I think the warning signs came when we get the right leads in, so the right audience that we're talking to, but they're just not converting. And I think that was the understanding that we then got, was actually perhaps we're not playing in the right space here because we just don't have it's not the right fit of customer for Lucidworks.
How did you know that they were the wrong leads? So what was the trigger that you realised the wrong leads? At what point did it happen? Because I know, obviously, I've seen the bigger picture of Nick going, we figured it out. But if you were just working through that process, what was the point when you were like, these are the wrong leads?
So I think that the challenge was for the audience we're going after, they were the right leads, but they were the wrong leads for Lucidworks, because ultimately they just weren't closing. They weren't ending up as closed won. So with a marketing hat on, you're thinking, right, what are we doing? Are we doing the right things? Are we hitting the right numbers? Are we getting the right kind of flow through the lead funnel? And those boxes were sort of by and large being ticked. But when things just aren't closing, it's at that point you've got to start thinking, there's something not quite right here. Are we just playing in the wrong? We've got the oval-shaped ball and we're kicking it around a pitch with goals down the end. So we're on the wrong field. And it was at that time there's also this realization from Nick and the team sales. So we had this pivot across to B2B manufacturing, very much enterprise focused, £1 billion sort of $1 billion plus accounts. And that was a massive challenge from a marketing perspective, in that we had almost zero awareness in the field. We had zero opt-in contacts, which is quite a challenge. Most of the target accounts that fell into this were in Germany, which we also hadn't really been covering, and we needed a good B2B story. So consequently, there was an awful lot of work to do. And I think actually this is what kind of really pulled the team together, because the approach was new across the whole commercial organization, from sales through to marketing through to SDR. Actually, we need to work really, really closely together, understand the ICP, who are we targeting, what are their needs, what are their pain points, how do we talk to these, what have we got in content, what's missing in content, how do we get the right things in front of the right people at every stage of the customer journey, and what's that customer journey look like? Oh, by the way, we need a German language website that's going to talk through these things. And then how do you convert all the digital interactions and engagement that you get into conversations that then the sales team can do something with? So it required a really holistic, sort of joined up thought process. And you can't really do that in isolation in marketing. You've got to talk to your colleagues. And actually, this was where I think the team, it's a very small, tightly knit team in Europe, really came together, because I needed the insights from the client success team, what's working, why do people use us, what they love about us. We need to hear the insights from Nick and the sales team when they're going out talking to B2B prospects. Again, what are their pain points? What are the things that seem to really resonate? Because it just helps us refine the messaging. We get in marketing lots of data to understand what's being downloaded, where people are engaging. The bit we're missing is the why. And you also don't know what you don't know. And that's where insights from your other colleagues who are working day in, day out with customers and prospects are super helpful.
I think the thing that really made this tick was just the general working together of sales, marketing, and customer success, and professional service as well. So our a traditional sales meeting is like salespeople just going through their pipeline and everything in isolation. Because we're a kind of small enough team, representatives from customer success, professional services, and marketing were all in it together. So we were able to kind of see the bigger picture and challenge each other on, why is this working? Why is this not working? What can we do to help? And it became collaborative really, really quickly. The other thing kind of behind this is, while there was a great, I think, marketing engine in the US, because we were going after a different market, we kind of had to do this ourselves, right? We didn't get that sort of support. So our little mantra was, well, if it doesn't exist, we'll create it, right? And just giving, empowering that team to do that and to move forward and to experiment with types of content, with types of approaches, even the events and the venues that we went to. It was very much an open, experimental refinement kind of mode, rather than a kind of everybody pointing at somebody else for the answer. At least from my point of view, that was what it felt like. But Max, is that kind of what you got?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And when you start from the perspective of we're all new into this market, so we've got I need you to help me understand who we're targeting and why. Then it becomes much more a shared conversation, and the building the go-to-market strategy. We don't know what the right answer is when we set out, but what we do, we can do some analysis. We can look at the target accounts that we're going to hopefully get in front of, and then you can just discuss with the team and say, we've got 8 options, we've got budget to do 3 of them. What are we going to focus on? Where do we think the biggest wins are? And from a marketing perspective, you give your advice and say, well, here's some objectives. This is what we need to be looking to do, because this will help people through the funnel. But you also need the input from your colleagues as well to actually, I think here we've got the best opportunity because of X. And then you arrive at a consensus together.
And I think the main thing for me to signpost here is that what you're describing, people might say, well, that's normal, isn't it? And it isn't normal, because it isn't normal in every company, because there's a couple of if we were to map out the process there's a couple of little gates where things could have gone wrong. So the first thing that could have gone wrong, which was basically when the sales team weren't converting the leads, some companies, and I've spoken to people with this attitude, they've turned around and said, well, it's because marketing are giving us the wrong type of leads. And without being in this instance, it kind of was the case, but you weren't defensive about it. You did go back and there was a huge project about it. But the other response that marketing could have in that situation, rather than doing what you did, which was go and investigate it, which was, no, the problem is the sales team don't know how to close people. They need training. So we need to go and put them on a better training course on how to close their customers, on how to do that. I don't know if you've experienced that in other organisations, and if that was something that's helped you learn from this moment that you came to.
Yes, and yes. And
I agree totally.
And yeah, I think it was fairly unique in some ways in the collaboration openness. I've been lucky enough to work in a number of organisations where it has been similar as well, and that we have had the ability to have good discussions. But I think it was unique at just how collaborative the team was in Europe with Lucidworks.
Can you think or reflect on this of other moments like where they could have gone wrong, or maybe there was something and that you had to shut it down? Was there people that like basically were upset about things perhaps, and like how that was handled, and how, again, like I said, it could have sliding doors moment. It could have just gone completely differently, but you caught it from your experience and how you sort of like stopped it.
I'm not sure I could pinpoint any specific moment. I think probably the thing that is most important with all this is if you just look at numbers, then it's easy to get into blame game. We're delivering leads, why aren't they closing? The really, really important thing is always the why. And actually the why, I'd say, is the most important thing throughout marketing. It's understanding if something is happening, why is it succeeding? If it's not succeeding, why isn't it succeeding? And that then needs a discussion. And if you can get that why question out there and people are trying to get to the bottom of it, then you usually have a reasonable discussion and look at some hypotheses as to why things aren't happening. I think that was probably one of the critical aspects, that the team at Lucidworks were introspective in terms of they were good at analysing what was going on in the marketplace. And that was fairly unusual. And it was that analysis of why is this not happening for us that I think led to we're just in the wrong market. There's other people who can provide what retail and e-commerce in the UK needs better in an easier way than we can do.
If I hit probably the first, I wouldn't say first day, but certainly the first week I took on the role, I brought everybody together, or at least the leaders in sales, marketing, and success and services. I think our partner manager was in there as well, I listened to a good old moan fest. But what came out of it was just a couple of rules. One, we just don't blame each other, and two, we don't wait for somebody to give us something. And I think that having that expectation of how we want to behave together, I think started that kind of more collaborative approach as well. And I think, there was an imperative here. Everybody wanted to do well, right? And there's an imperative to do better. I think we were really lucky in having some very strong, collaborative, analytically minded, curious salespeople in the team as well, which, allowed us to, there was as much concerned about closing the deal as how they closed the deal, which is like a wonderful thing to have to deal with, and can't speak highly enough of them as well.
So lessons learned from that.
I think having the autonomy and the structural change that Lucidworks did, which resulted in me having this GM role, it allowed us to be a little bit more separate from the mothership, and to attack the market as it was, on the ground. But what we had to do as a team was make sure that we had that sort of mothership connection, and to make sure that those processes and the things that we were learning were being fed back. And one of the interesting things with this journey is we flipped in EMEA to B2B manufacturing. Fast forward 18 months, the US has started to flip towards B2B manufacturing as well. So it was it didn't feel like it at the time, but it was actually a two-way process. So I think that structural autonomy within the region, ability to bring things together, ability to adjust processes but not go rogue, within that structure, I think is also helped.
Yeah, the localization of a European, EMEA division, rather than it just all being from America, which some companies have currently flipped back to save money. So they've tried to do it all from America, which they can definitely learn from your lessons. So tell us about the results, because we know we've talked about the process, we've talked about the challenges, but come on, you guys, I know you had a phenomenal, once you put this in place, you started to see the rewards and the fruits of your labour from a commercial revenue point of view and pipeline.
Yeah, so I think, what would you say the pipeline was at the beginning? It's like as close to zero as you can get. 6 months down the line, we were over 3 million, and it was sustainable. We beat our number for the year, 250% sort of increase, and it was a record. Yeah, if you go back all the way through the history. It was a record year as well. And customer success, actually, we started to see an uptick in the retention numbers as well through some other sort of joined up programs that we had running, which Max called Leapfrog, which is cool. And I think there's some really strong marketing metrics as well that were coming through that as well, Max.
Yeah, that's right. The ultimate marketing metrics all feed into that final end game, which is sales pipeline and close one. And I think at the end of the first year or so, we got some like 10x the number of qualified strategic account leads than compared to the previous year, and that was super important in terms of right accounts, right people, and right conversations that we're having, and that then filled into a tripling of the pipeline.
So Max, you taught me Einmal ist Kleinmal.
Einmal ist Kleinmal. Once is none is the German, which is a short way of saying don't just do a one big hit in the market. You need to have a constant presence there, and I think it's one of the things that companies frequently underestimate if they're going to market in Europe. They'll do one big trade show and then expect that's going to fill their pipeline for the year. It doesn't. You actually need to build a presence. You need to build trust and credibility within the audience, and that requires commitment. So I've worked in Germany for German companies for a long time, and you understand how the Germans think. So that was really important, that if we're going to go after the B2B market in Germany, we've got to be consistent about it, and we've got to be consequential about the way we approach this, so people can see we're not just here as a one-off, we're here to stay and going to be repeating and coming back and being present. And I think that was borne out over some of the events that we did. First time we did it, might have a couple of conversations. By the time we're there, second or third times, we're having repeat conversations with the same brands who are getting more and more interested, because it takes us a long sales cycle, and people need to know that you're going to be around to support and look after them.
Yeah, and I think just you've touched on something there that is kind of important about the way we evolved as well. So every event we did, we'd have a look and have a dispassionate view on what worked, what didn't. And it's not a blame thing. It's a how can we do things better? It's like Wile E. Coyote. When he drops the rock over the thing, but he's got his foot sort of tied to it and he goes down with it, but then the next thing he straps a rocket to his back. We weren't doing that. We were just going, okay, we're going to drop a rock. Let's make sure there's not a big piece of rope that's going to kind of catch us on the way down. So we shifted our events, and I think we went to smaller events where, we're building up a presence. We could have more intimate kind of interactions, and we always did something that was value add in that event. So a speaking slot or a round table or something like that to get ourselves known, rather than just having a fancy booth and hoping people would come to us. And I think that really, that's where Max's expertise came in, and that really, really did help us sort of move the bar forward. Sort of flipping back a little bit to the outcomes, I think we've not got to forget the people outcomes from this. I said at the beginning there were some people who are pretty frustrated, bit at the end of their tether. Everybody stayed with us through the journey, and the poor SDR, who was obviously not doing great with a tiny pipeline, he became the best performing SDR in the entire company, and that was great for his career. And he did so well as an SDR, we moved him into customer success, where he was also, fantastic as well, and using some of those skills to build that more commercially focused CS organization that we wanted to be. That's probably another podcast, Karen.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, we're going to wrap things up. But what I want to say is what I think is really interesting. The points you just made as well is that you made a big change at the beginning, but it didn't just, you didn't just stop there. You continuously improved, and it wasn't just, like the one trick pony. We did one big year and that was it. As Max, you got your expression. Once is what was it? Once is nothing.
Once is none.
Once is none. Yeah, once is none. So, English, we'd say one trick pony, but, it's the same thing, a one hit wonder, a great translation for the German market. And instead, you constantly looked, involved and iterated, and you worked together for several years and, produced great revenue that also other parts of the business replicated on the back of what you've done. So I think it's, a true case study, of success of sales and marketing working together. So thank you for sharing it. Is there anything else you wanted to add that I haven't asked you at this point?
No, I just one thing that I think we're kind of proud of. So when we started this journey, the region was called Rest of World.
Oh,
which is a very American phrase, right? We started to be known, even at board level, as Best of World, which is really cool. And I think somebody decided we can't have that, so we got our name changed to International. But I'll live with that.
No, that's really nice. Well, it's great that they saw that also the underdog team, the small EMEA team, as you said, in America, they were they were basically, it was easy for them to sell because there was a big market and there was lots of companies, and it's very siloed in America, isn't it? Just to have a small pie of a market in America is very different to Europe, as we described. So it was great that they recognised that the underdogs in Europe did well. So fantastic. Thank you. It's a really uplifting, inspirational story, actually. And I think it's going to resonate with people who, they may be struggling, or they may see some of the things that you could have gone wrong with. And perhaps, hopefully, they can catch this and share this with somebody else in their business. So please do share this if you think this is going to help you in your business with other people in your team. Great stuff. Anything else you want to finish on, Max?
It was a great journey, really interesting set of folks to work with, and I think it's just really a really good testament to what you can do with collaboration.
Brilliant stuff. And at the beginning, I mentioned that Max, you're working as a fractional, so you're still working with businesses now on a fractional basis.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, supporting companies where they need marketing, field marketing work, fractional CMO, whatever the need is, both UK and also across Europe.
And Nick, you're also in advisory. You have an advisory business now. Is that your consulting?
Yeah. So my advisory business focuses on SaaS companies that need help. Mostly with post sales and where the revenue gaps are around the interfaces between the different functions. I think this story is a great example of what can happen if you get all that right.
Yeah, no, exactly. So feel free to reach out. We'll have links for both Max and Nick if you have these problems in your business and you need some help. We'll include that in our show notes. So thank you very much, Max and Nick. It's been a lovely, really interesting conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I'm very lucky to be a podcast host and speak to brilliant commercial leaders like Max and Nick. And as a passionate marketer myself, also a business owner and headhunter, I also run a search firm for sales and marketing. So if you're looking to grow your team and you'd like a conversation about what the current market looks like, please drop me an email at karen@armstronglloyd.co.uk. But in the meantime, keep shining that spotlight on marketing and commercial growth. Thank you.